All right, my friends. I just pressed the Let's Go Live button. And so let's wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internets. Before we go ahead and get started, we got business to attend to. It's Tuesday, Taco Tuesday, of course, and we've got trial underway. We've got David Pecker back on the stand today. It's going to be one of those days. And let's make sure before we jump into everything that the tubes are working, making sure that they are alive and well. It looks like our friends on YouTube are coming in. Locals is up, Rumble, Telegram. It's working. That's tremendous. Let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney, and today we're talking about Trump trial, day 6, going down into New York because we had a contempt hearing, first and foremost this morning. Alvin Bragg asking Judge Juan Merchan for a $100,000 fine for 10 various counts of violating the judicial order, saying Trump can't talk about anything. Meanwhile, Alvin Bragg is seated in court today somewhere, and he apparently, I don't know if he kept his shoes on or not, but he was actually there behind the bench at one location. But we have Trump coming out, speaking on this, saying the whole thing's ridiculous. I am gagged, but Stormy Daniels can run her mouth. Michael Cohen can go on podcasts and Jen Psaki's show and all the things, but Trump cannot speak. Now, Newt Gingrich, you remember him, former Speaker of the House. He's going to set the scene for us before we jump into the day's testimony, courtesy of Inner City Press, Matthew Russell Lee reporting. We have Newt saying, this system is so bad, it's so corrupt. Is there anything we can do about this? It's really an insane situation that we're watching unfold around us. But Newt is maybe poking at the idea that the Supreme Court could come in and get involved in this. And so we'll take a look at that one in the first segment. Then in the afternoon, we had a little bit of a break. We came back. The court was adjourned early, I believe, because of Passover today, but we did get some testimony from David Pecker back on the stand. And we remember who David Pecker is. We talked about him yesterday. He was up on there. He was the former AMI, National Enquirer executive. And we just had a little bit of foundational stuff from him yesterday before they paused it and adjourned because a juror had an appointment. So we're going to pick back up with him retaking the stand. But we now know, this was a very interesting little development today, what the predicate offense is. Remember that they were saying that this whole thing is a felony because Trump was going to go commit another crime. He was falsifying business records in furtherance of some other crime. That turns it from a misdemeanor into a felony. And the question is, okay, well, what felony was that? Or what other crime was that? Nobody really knew what they were pointing to, but it turns out it's 17-152 New York law. And we know that is another offense, so we've already talked about here, because there were really only 4 options. This was one of them, conspiracy to promote or to prevent an election. But what's curious about this, as you'll see, it's only a misdemeanor, which is strange. Because, well, we'll save it for there. I almost went off on a whole thing there. But we have a misdemeanor, which is now being the predicate offense for a felony. In order to make a misdemeanor offense into a felony, they are bootstrapping a misdemeanor predicate offense to turn it into a felony offense. It's wild times. It's like dividing kind of by zero to bypass the statute of limitations on all of the underlying offenses. And we'll see if the Court of Appeals, deals with it appropriately when they get it. But we did have testimony from David Pecker. I know. So Pecker's back on the stand. Oh, gosh. Pecker showed up in court again. Oh, no. All right. So he's there, and we're going to see what he said, courtesy of Inner City Press, Matthew Russell Lee. All of his links are down in the description wherever you're watching this. And then we'll hear from a former attorney general, acting attorney general, known as Matthew Whitaker. You remember him. He's talking about the truth of this prosecution. Who is Matthew Colangelo, the Biden prosecutor who's behind all of this, who has been just bouncing around from office to office, from Obama, then over to Tisch, then over to Biden, then back over to Bragg. at every stop, prosecuting Trump along the way. So we'll see what he says about it. And then we're going to turn our attention over to Florida because, there were some spicy document drops that occurred yesterday while we were here in trial. We had our friend Julie Kelly who brought this to our attention, saying that, there's some pretty interesting documents that got released out there. We should all take a look at them. She did. She posted an X thread on this. If you're not following her, you should. It's got like 3 million views last I checked. Everyone's like, whoa, this is pretty consequential. And so shout out to Julie Kelly. She's doing great work. Of course, we pulled up the full documents and we'll go through them side by side. Here's what it's going to look like. We've got them both pulled up. We've got the redactions, and it's going to just be juicy because we'll just be able to go through both of them and see what is inside both of them, pre-redactions and then post-redactions. So that's going to be fun. And then we'll see what you have to say about this, of course. And remind me, if we come back here and we have some time, there was another clip I just saw that we might come back to. We'll see. I don't know. We got this one, of course. This is what we've got queued up, my friends. Grateful that you are here and with us. It's a beautiful Taco Tuesday, and I hope your week is unfolding very nicely. We had an amazing members-only stream this morning where we do our member streams in the mornings. We meet 6 days a week, including on Saturdays in the mornings. We've already done a live stream today, and we get our bearings straight, see what's going on in the world as the day starts to unfold for us all. And we talk about a bunch of other stuff that we can't get to here. So on the show, we're pretty focused hard on the Trump trials, Trump litigation, but there's a lot of other stuff going on in this world and a lot of other things to talk about. So come join us. We have an amazing community, watchingthewatchers.locals.com, members only streams, after parties, and an amazing community. Also, robertgovea.com. If you want to sign up for our daily newsletter, if you want to get something from the merch store, if you want to read the daily show reports or access the PDFs, that's where you'll do it. And then come join us at watcherlodge.com. It is pinned in the chat on the YouTubes, and it's linked down in the description below. On Saturday, every Saturday, we're talking about sovereignty and self-development. We talk a lot about some serious problems in our world here on this channel, and we also want to be a part of the solution in our lives, in our communities' lives, our families' lives, right, and all the things. So come join us. That's what we're talking about, solutions, sovereignty, and self-development over at watcherlodge.com, and we'd love to see you there. It's all free. Just come join us. All right. Now, without any further ado, it's trial time. We got to get to it. And so let's get this queued up and get started. Donald Trump now facing a $100,000 fine for just defending himself. While Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen are out running their mouths, Trump has been gagged. He can't say anything about this. And when he starts truthing or tweeting, because he's in the middle of an election, he now faces contempt. He now faces potential jail time and at least a fine. And this has all been taken under advisement by the judge. And we're going to get into the day's activities to see what happened, and then we can prognosticate on how the judge will rule on this. It is New York, so we kind of know how this is going to go. But Trump responded to this whole thing. We'll see what he said in the aftermath. But let's set the scene on day 6 of the Trump trial, courtesy of Newt Gingrich. You remember him, former Speaker of the House. He's seen a lot of stuff, right? He's got some gray hair on his head. He's been around, seen some political mayhem before. And here's what his take is on New York and how this whole thing's unfolding with Alvin Bragg.
I am deeply worried that tomorrow a totally corrupt judge and a totally corrupt district attorney are going to try to put a former president of the United States, candidate of his party, and front runner in the polls in jail. Now, I think this is so horrendous that there has to be some way to reach out to the Supreme Court. I mean, this is literally like some of the civil rights workers in Mississippi in the 1960s. The New York system is now so deeply corrupted, and it is so bitterly, deeply anti-Trump. The absurdity of the judge's daughter, who made millions and millions of dollars doing anti-Trump politics.
93 million.
And the judge would like us to believe, much like Joe Biden, he had no idea what his children were doing. I mean, the whole thing, frankly, resembles On the Waterfront, Stanley Kubrick's brilliant film. This is about corruption. It has nothing to do with honesty. And what worries me is it's a genuine threat to Donald Trump. I mean, I think any step that would put him close to a New York prison is an extraordinarily dangerous step, and I would hope that there's some legal way to block it and make sure that it never happens, because the thugs he's dealing with are totally out of control, have total contempt for the rule of law, and frankly are unworthy of being in the offices they hold.
Absolutely right. So well done, Newt. He delivered on that one. I think he set the stage very appropriately for the people that we're dealing with. And the point of sharing that is that this is what Trump is walking into today on day 6 of the Trump trial. And so, courtesy of Inner City Press, Matthew Russell Lee, you know who he is. He is over on the X platform, and we are always reposting his stuff, so you know exactly where to find it if you're not already following him. But he's there in court reporting, and all his links are in our description below. Now, he gives us a report. The scene is set. Trump and his lawyers have arrived. They're seated in the courtroom for the contempt of court hearing. Jury is not there because they don't need to be a part of this. And this is referencing Trump's Truth Social post. Remember, he wasn't saying a lot of things. He did have some commentary on some posts, but there were a total of about 10 posts. Many of these were retruths, retweets, re-X's. Other videos, other statements from people like Michael Avenatti would come across Trump's timeline. He'd retruth it. Boom. So Bragg says, you're in violation of the order because you can't comment on any witnesses. Trump, of course, is retruthing things. He's saying, I'm not commenting on them. I'm just sharing what other people are saying. It's not a prohibition against sharing anything. I just can't speak it. So here is where it starts. We're in court. Pool photographs are taken. Everyone's click, click, click. Trump's sitting here. Oh, gosh. Vultures. Now, there are repeated admonitions that no one else can take photographs. Clerks screaming at everybody, security. And there is some talk of people being banned if you do it. If you take a cell phone photo, you're banned from coming in here. So only licensed photographers are allowed to be here taking photographs. Now, we await. We think Trump's coming. There's a hustle and a bustle. Trump's seated there. And now the court is ready to get in session, and boom, the court clerk emerges. The judge busts through the door. All rise, she says. Judge Wamer Khan enters the courtroom. Oh, gosh, Judge. Clerk says, all right, this is the time set for people of the state of New York versus Donald Trump, indictment number, whatever. Judge says, good morning, everybody. Counsel, please approach, come forward. Attorneys from both sides, the defense table and the prosecution table, walk up to the court bench. Trump remains seated alone at the defense table. We fast forward in time. They've dealt with their little bench conference and they're back at their tables. Judge Merchan goes back on the record, says, on April 15th, Bragg and the prosecutors asked this court to sign an order to show cause, which is like a report to the principal's office note. And they're upset because Trump violated the gag order that Judge Wamer Khan set. Now, they allege that he violated the gag order on 3 separate occasions. And then they alleged additional violations in the aftermath since those original 3. Now, with that being said, government, we'll hear from you. What's your arguments? Government prosecutor stands up. He says, Your Honor, we're here today, and I have in my hand 10 documents that I'm going to be handing up to court. Now, each one of these is a violation. Now, let's go through them individually, and I will show you that number 9 right now is the landing page of a Truth Social post that links to an article. And 9A is the article that's the link to. And Judge, each of these 10 different posts violates your gag order that you imposed on April 1st, and that was the amendment of the March 25th order, which is when the judge, like a just bad person, added his daughter and his family members who were and are working for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to the order so that Trump couldn't comment about them in this trial, also in the middle of an election season. Each of the 10 posts violate the order, they say. Now, Trump sought an emergency stay back on April 1st, which we've covered here. Trump says, you can't gag me. We're in the middle of an election. This is irreparable harm. We can do a criminal trial over again, but we can't do the 2024 election over again. So if my speech is gagged, if I have a prior restraint on the things that I can say, I am permanently damaged in this election. Of course he is. And in my opinion, his due process is dumped all over his First Amendment free speech rights in order that he is provided to expose the government by utilizing the First Amendment. Remember, if you're a criminal defendant, that's your only tool. You're a defendant. Now, Trump happens to be a pretty powerful defendant, but he is no match to the government. Are you kidding me? No one is. I mean, look what they're trying to do to Elon and so on, right? You could be the world's richest people in the world. You still cower before the government. Everybody does. Because it's the government. They can do whatever they want, and they do. So Trump has to use the First Amendment to expose the corruption and the bias in this process. And they took that away from him because they're cowards. So prosecutor says, Your Honor, he sought an emergency stay, and it was denied. And so the gag order was still valid. But Trump hasn't stopped his madness. Yesterday, just outside the courtroom, Trump violated the order again, and he did it on camera. We played that clip here, and I said, okay, well, he's going to get hit on this one. Any comment on Michael Cohen, they're going to say, oh, you can't say that. Judge said you can't do it. Sorry. He said Cohen's a lawyer. He said Cohen wasn't very good. Trump said that Cohen put in an invoice, and then that Trump got indicted. Remember, yes, that clip from day 5. Trump said, what is this? I paid a lawyer. Okay, he was a lawyer, not a good lawyer, but a lawyer. And he billed me, so I paid him. We put legal retainer because you get one line on the check. That's it. So, Your Honor, the defendant Trump should be held in contempt of court. And on April 10th at 10:07, by the way, Trump also reproduced a post by Michael Avenatti. We also played that one. And he added to this statement, he said 2 sleazebags on top of that. Okay, so it wasn't just a retruth from Avenatti. He said it's 2 sleazebags in addition to the retruth. So it's a little comment on that. And the judge says, well, okay, Mr. Prosecutor, so that retruth, can you connect that to the gag order? He says, of course, yeah, Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels are known witnesses. And Avenatti is commenting on known witnesses, and Trump is retruthing that. And so, clearly, it's connected. And the judge is saying, great job, I like that. Now, next, Trump posted a picture of a document, calling it the official statement of Stormy Daniels, which we've seen here. That's when she denied the affair took place, as I've said, in 2008, 2011, 2010, 2014. It never happened. I've never done, leave me alone, right? Signed it. Michael Cohen had a very similar statement, which we've talked about here many times. Trump said, will the fake news report this? No, they all say she recanted because she did after it was profitable for her to do that. Government continues, Your Honor, and he didn't stop there. Here's another post where he's blatantly violating your orders, Your Honor. He posted this. Has Mark Pomerantz been prosecuted? Or has Michael Cohen been prosecuted? Then he added MAGA 2024, which he says makes my skin crawl. Next, while Trump was likely in this building, Judge, he posted this on True Social. He called Michael Cohen a serial perjurer. And we know he's talking about Michael Cohen because a federal judge brought that up in another case. And he put on his campaign website too, Your Honor, in case you missed it, which I understand to mean in case you missed it. Well done, Mr. Prosecutor. Brilliant. A link to an article he published on True Social, the same link about a serial perjurer. On April 16th at 7:09, he posted a picture of Cohen. And Trump also posted a link to someone named Jesse Waters. He doesn't know who he is. Yeah, right. You know he is. Yeah, right. You live in New York, dude. Okay. About the jurors, quote, trying to get on the jury. He's like, I don't know who Jesse Waters is. Yes, you do. You guys are obsessed with all the right, everybody on the right. Yes, you are. Defendant posted a link to someone named Jesse Waters about the jurors, quote, trying to get on the jury. And judge says, well, what did he say on that? He posted on Truth. Trump said liberal activists are lying to get on the Trump jury. It's a violation, Your Honor. And so right after he posted that, okay, we know that that's going out to the public. And the prosecutor says, and we tried to bring this up on juror 2 for cause. And we lost juror 2, right? I think juror 2 is the juror that has the news. Everybody reported how they get their news. And he said he got his from X and Truth. And then we lost juror 2. Now, this is a lawful order of the court. Despite ongoing appeals, he can appeal this if he wants, but he violates the orders when he posts about witnesses and the jurors. Now, not just individual jurors, any juror, even the process of the jury selection, blah, blah, blah. And Trump was willful in doing this. Now, throwing MAGA into a post just doesn't make it political, meaning he can just get away with it. It may make it even more ominous, like he's trying to insurrect justice here. He complains that reposts are not his statements. He says, I didn't say it, I just reposted it. But consider the photo of the defendant holding a bat at the DA's head, which we know that was a hoax. So Trump shared a link, and in that link, okay, there was another image in the header of that post, which I don't know if it was changed after the fact or whatever, but it did have Alvin Bragg and Donald Trump with a baseball bat. But it wasn't Trump. Trump didn't create this image and reshare it. He shared an article, and then the article pulled in the photo from the social media site. So he says, he complains, so he does this all the time, basically. Now, we're not asking for an incarceratory penalty, says the government. We're not asking that you put him in jail, Judge, because that would be a big problem. We'll see if they get around to that at some point. But we're asking for a $1,000 fine for each of these 10 posts, that he be ordered to take the 10 posts down. I thought it was a $10,000 fine, but I could be wrong on that. That he be ordered to take these, because $10,000 is like, Trump's like, I paid for my valet for that. What are you, nuts? Trump's lawyer, Blanche, that he ordered take the 10 posts down. So let me see. We're asking whether or not Trump, what was the total amount? Yeah, it's right. They asked $1,000 per violation. So I misread that somewhere. That's it? $10,000? What on earth? Give me a break. Okay, so I got to fix the title on this thing. But look at this. They asked the judge to fine Trump $1,000 per violation in their initial motion for contempt. All right, let's see. Let's see if that's in their initial motion. Let's see. Let's go through this. And that he be ordered to take the 10 posts down. So then it goes over to the defense. And Todd Blanche is up. Trump's attorney, Todd Blanche. He says, Your Honor, let's get down to this. President Trump knows what the gag order allows him to do. Okay, it's pretty clear. He's familiar with this and he knows how this works. Now, there is no question that President Trump is under political attack here, including from these two witnesses, Stormy and Cohen. And Trump's posts were not directed at their testimony at all. This is about the election and the political attacks. Mercan says, well, which post are you talking about? Let's get specific here. Todd says, well, specifically the post about Avenatti. And Cohen responds politically. Cohen wrote about Trump. He said Trump would never pardon Avenatti. And that's a political question. He says, you're saying that's a political question? Todd Blanche says, yeah, of course it is. Both talk about their desire for him not to be reelected. Both talk about their desire for him not to be reelected. Now, have you spoken to Mr. Avenatti about what he intended, Mr. Blanche? How would you know? If not, how do you know? So the use of the word pardon, you say, allows your client to respond. And so you're suggesting that one work allows your client to violate a gag order? He says, well, he can respond to that. If they start talking about him, he can respond. This gag order goes back to the DC Circuit, Your Honor. They said it can be hard to determine if a statement is about the trial or beyond this. And so as to it relates to Stormy Daniels, her statement has been public. And so the judge cuts him off. 6 years old. And so what is the recent attack? And he says, by the way, Stormy Daniels' credibility doesn't matter unless she takes the stand. He says, yes, it does. It matters because it's not just about this trial. Trump is running for president. And so what is he responding to, says the judge? Well, the documentary, the one on Peacock, the judge cuts him off again. I'm asking, wow. What's he responding to? The documentary. He says, judge cuts him off. I'm asking the questions. You don't ask me questions. Don't you turn it around on me. It's almost 10:30 in the morning and I'm bringing in the jury at 11. He's like, wow. So he let the government just run his mouth. And then when the defense is up, hurries him through it. Don't turn it around on me. It's almost 10:30. I'm bringing in the jury at 11. We're only on exhibit 2 of 10. And so tell me what attacks he was responding to. Trump's defense says, well, he was attacking the system, Your Honor. He's allowed to do this. This entire, this case is fair game. He can comment on it. And so what was he responding to then, Todd? He says, well, the two systems of justice in this courtroom specifically. Good for Todd, okay? I was not trying to insert my own thesis as to where this was going, but I'm glad he brought that up. It's happening right now, Your Honor. The two systems of justice in this courtroom. And he gets cut off. You're saying there are two systems of justice in this courtroom? Whoa. Todd says, yeah, Mr. Weisselberg's in jail, Your Honor. Michael Cohen is not. They said Weisselberg perjured himself. A federal judge said Cohen perjured himself. No consequences for him. Judge is pissed. So you're suggesting to me, Mr. Blanche, let me be clear about this, that because Bragg or the court do not respond to every violation of the gag order, it's waived? Is that what you're saying? Well, it's not. It does not negate the validity of the gag order. And Todd says, Your Honor, Trump just reposted others. Okay, and the people didn't act on those. So he kept reposting. That was allowed. The judge says, okay, enough. Tell me how this account works. How does his truth account work? Tell me how it works. Todd says, well, it's pretty clear. There's a group of folks that look for articles they think President Trump's audience should know about. Now, it's not passive, so someone had to do something, says the judge. Is your client saying that he thought reposting wouldn't violate the gag order? Is that what he's saying? Because you haven't presented that to me today. He says, do you want me to put Trump on the stand? Is that what you're asking for? He'll say, yeah, I didn't think I was violating your gag order. He's not intentionally violating your gag order. The judge says, well, your client went beyond what Jesse Waters even said. He typed it out. He posted the shift key and everything. Caps lock. But now, what is your argument on this? Why is he caps locking like Fannie Willis? Blanche says, Todd, well, his view is that there were liberal activists trying to get on this jury. Now, every website discussed the jury, and he's allowed to say that. In fact, here's a post from Jesse Waters saying the same thing. Judge cuts him off. 3 hours after your client posted what he posted, Jesse Waters said the same thing 3 hours after. Anything else? Your Honor, we're trying to comply with this gag order. We're trying to. Judge cuts him off again. You, sir, are losing credibility with this court. And when this line came out and was said, everybody on the left basically fell out of their chairs. It was wild on X today. Oh my gosh, It's the worst thing. If you're a lawyer and you lose credibility in the eyes of the court, we're all just sitting here going, what? In fact, that actually supports Todd's credibility. 100%. This court has no credibility to begin with. If you're found credible by a judge that's lacking and totally lacking any integrity at all, that's a concern. When Judge Mercan comes out and is like, wow, this prosecutor is the best prosecutor I've ever met, upstanding man, you're like, whoa, that dude's a disaster. I wouldn't trust him at all. Because this is obviously a joke. This entire case, we have list after list of problems we could go through. I won't belabor the point here. So you're losing credibility for calling out the double standard here and doing his job. Okay. Lawyer for Trump says, Your Honor, we didn't think that the repost violated the gag order. If you see it that way, and if you want those posts taken down, of course we'll take them down. Well, you're not giving me, he says, judge cuts him off. I wasn't finished. What if a person was walking about with a placard saying terrible things, and your client took it and walked around with it? That's fine? That's what you're saying? He says, that's entirely different. He's like, what are you talking about? He says, you could have asked the judge. You could have asked, okay, we're considering a repost. Can we do it? You could have just asked us if we could do it. You would have said no. He says, we'll take our break. I'm going to reserve judgment on this. And the government jumps in. Your Honor, Trump's on trial. Mr. Cohen and Miss Daniels are not. So protect them and harm Trump. All right. And so Justice Mercan comes out, says, we'll see you back here at 11. I'm going to reserve judgment on this. And there is a break. And of course, Donald Trump now comes out. And here is what Trump says in response to this gag order occurring from Mercan.
Well, I think the gag order is totally unconstitutional. Can't even allow articles to be put in. As an example, these are articles that were over the last day and a half. They're very good articles. They say the case is a sham and it shouldn't even be tried. It shouldn't have been submitted. And I don't even know if you're allowed to put them in. We have a gag order, which to me is totally unconstitutional. I'm not allowed to talk, but people are allowed to talk about me. So they can talk about me. They can say whatever they want. They can lie. But I'm not allowed to say anything. I just have to sit back and look at why a conflicted judge has ordered me to have a gag order. I don't think anybody's ever seen anything like this. I'd love to talk to you people. I'd love to say everything that's on my mind. But I'm restricted because I have a gag order. And I'm not sure that anybody's ever seen anything like this before. And even having to do with articles. Somebody writes an article. If I read every one of these articles incomplete, I read some of it and I'll look at headlines, all good headlines, that the case is a sham. But I can't read the whole thing. I'd be reading, this is like reading a novel. So I put an article in and then somebody's name is mentioned somewhere deep in the article and I end up in violation of a gag order. I think it's a disgrace. It's totally unconstitutional. I don't believe it's never, not to this extent, ever happened before. I'm not allowed to defend myself, and yet other people are allowed to say whatever they want about me. Very, very unfair. Having to do with the schools and the closings, that's Biden's fault. And by the way, this trial is all Biden. You know, this is all Biden, just in case
Matthew Colangelo made his way down.
And they're keeping me in a courtroom that's freezing, by the way.
It's cold still.
All day long. Well, he's out campaigning. That's probably an advantage because he can't campaign. Nobody knows what he's doing. He can't put two sentences together. But he's out campaigning. He's out campaigning, and I'm here in a courtroom, sitting here, sitting up as straight as I can all day long. Because you know what? It's a very unfair situation. So we're locked up in a courtroom, and this guy's out there campaigning, if you call it a campaign. Every time he opens his mouth, he gets himself into trouble. So that's the story. I have an unconstitutional gag order by a highly conflicted judge that should recuse himself. Very simple. on the schools should have never happened. What's going on in this country now should have never happened. But of course, the Ukraine war would have never happened. The Israeli attack would have never happened. Inflation would have never happened. We have the worst president in the history of our country, and he's the one that has us in all these different lawsuits. Thank you very much.
All right, so that's Donald Trump with his statement there, and audio was a little bit muffled, but we heard what he had to say responding to the gag order, which is a reprehensible curtailment of his ability to call out the travesty of justice that we're all witnessing here. Even if you are saying that Trump is guilty of the charges, he should be free to communicate about the process that is being waged against him, right? That's the basis of the First Amendment. And it's wild that many people on the left can't even agree on that component here, that he can't talk about it, can't criticize the judge. It really undermines the credibility of what's happening here even further. And we'll see where Trump's team takes it from here when we come back here on day 7. So thank you for subscribing, my friends, wherever it is you're watching this. Thank you for liking this video and checking out some of the links down in our description below. We've got an amazing members-only community at watchingthewatchers.locals.com where we do streams in the morning, streams on Saturday, and after parties. We'd love to have you come join us, and so be sure to check that out. We'll see you over there and back here on the next one. All right, now let's stick with what's happening in New York because we have some good updates now that we are in day 6 of this case. We have a witness back on the stand. Bragg's theory of the Trump prosecution looks to be weaker than we even thought. We now have David Pecker back on the stand, and we had a sidebar that took place where one of the government prosecutors from Bragg's team went up, talked to the judge, and there was a conversation about what the predicate offense is for Bragg's prosecution. And remember, they're charging Trump with falsifying business records. And the only reason this is a felony falsifying business records charge is because they say he intended to violate another crime. Well, what was that other crime? No one knew. There were 4 different possibilities until we landed here today. And now we know, because of this sidebar, that they're talking about conspiracy to promote or prevent an election, which is 17152 in New York. Now, it is a misdemeanor. We're going to come back to that. They're using another misdemeanor offense to turn what is an original misdemeanor offense into a felony. Weird, right? We'll talk about it. We've got Inner City Press, who is going to be reporting on day 6 of this for us. And so we'll see what he has to say, and then we'll wrap up this segment with the take from Matthew Whitaker, who's commenting on how Biden is orchestrating this whole thing. It goes through Matthew Colangelo, as we've talked about here many times. And so what is this predicate offense conversation? Well, Lisa Rubin, who does reporting for MSNBC, she was there, and she posted this today. She said, you know, Bragg's office has not previously identified with any precision what the crime is that Trump allegedly was intending to commit. We had no idea what it was, which is strange because it's hard to prepare for a defense when you don't know what the crime is that they're saying you were charged with. We have no idea. There was 4 possibilities. They didn't really tell us. And the judge said, you'll figure it out at trial. We're in the middle of trial, and we're just now learning about this. So the DA's office has not previously identified this. This is from MSNBC, not some right-winger. She comments for Maddow, saying, we don't even know. We don't care as long as they're going after Trump. Was allegedly, they say, Trump was allegedly intending to commit or conceal by falsifying business records. We didn't know what that crime was until now. Here's the story. During a sidebar about the relevance of Steve Bannon's requests of Pecker, David Pecker, the government prosecutor Steinglass admitted that New York election law 17152, which prohibits conspiracies to promote a candidate's election through unlawful means, is their, quote, primary predicate, right? Now, when we were here before on opening arguments in the day preceding, we kept hearing them talk about conspiracy. And we go, well, that's strange, man, because there's no conspiracy charge in the indictment. So why are you talking about a bunch of allegedly criminal conduct that you didn't even charge? Curious. So now we look up this other offense, 17-152, which is going to be their predicate offense. So this whole thing is relying on this. And remember, falsifying a business record is generally a misdemeanor until you falsify it with the intent to further another crime. Then that escalates it, elevates it into a felony. And from that felony, right, now you extend the statute of limitations in this case. If they couldn't do that, they could not bring this case. If there was a limited statute of limitations, it would have expired a long time ago because the allegations in this indictment are from 2017. So fast forward, however many years, a misdemeanor, it's clearly expired. You could make the argument that a felony is expired, but we had two problems with that to extend the statute of limitations. One being COVID, which allowed the criminal justice system to just extend statute of limitations, and Kathy Hochul did that. So it extended and prolonged the statute of limitations. And the other was when Trump was president, there's argument by New York law that it tolls the statute of limitations. So they add the COVID order plus the presidency, plus the fact that this is no longer a misdemeanor and has been elevated into a felony. That gives them the ability to bring this case. So they're strapping on a bunch of stuff together. It's like, man, there's a lot of duct tape on this crap case of yours. But they did it. Now we find out that the crime that they say Trump intended to commit also is a misdemeanor. It says it's conspiracy to promote or to prevent an election. Any two or more persons who conspire to promote or to prevent an election of any person to a public office by unlawful means, and which conspiracy is acted upon, which is why they keep saying conspiracy, 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 by one or more of the parties shall be guilty of a misdemeanor. Do you know why they didn't charge this misdemeanor? Well, because the statute of limitations is expired. It's too late. If they say all of this business transaction was in furtherance of some conspiracy, they could have charged it, but they didn't do that. And why do we have statute of limitations? Why do they exist in the law? To prevent this type of garbage from happening. Last thing you want is to wake up 20 years and to get a speeding ticket from that cop from 20 years ago. You go, what? Why am I getting this ticket now? Like, well, you voted the wrong way last election. You're like, what? And so the government just comes back and dumps all these charges on you. Or prosecutors get to hold things in their back pocket till 10 years later and then bring the charges out. We want to incentivize justice to be done expeditiously. We want to accelerate it so it goes quickly. You don't get to delay. Be like, what if you got a DUI and they didn't charge you for it until 15 years later? And they're like, well, we tested your blood. You're like, you've had my blood in evidence for 15 years and you just tested it? No, that's not valid. How about no? We want to accelerate, preserve evidence. So New York law says if there's a conspiracy, you've got 1 year or whatever the misdemeanor statute of limitations there is to bring it. And they didn't do it. So now they are creating it and they are not even charging it. So Trump is charged with a fake misdemeanor that has been escalated into a felony in furtherance of another crime that is a misdemeanor, which would have a similar statute of limitations as to the original charge. Okay, so we're like back to zero again. We're back to the original misdemeanor level. So it's ridiculous that we're even here. It's like dividing by zero, and they're doing it to get around the statute of limitations. It's pretty sick. But we now know what the theory is, and we now know why they're bringing in this other person who is not even a party to the charged crimes. Remember, once again, that Trump has been indicted on 34 counts of falsifying business records. 34 counts, all felonies, all related to payments from, allegedly, from Trump to Michael Cohen that he reimbursed or whatever he did with it to Stormy Daniels. Nothing about David Pecker, Karen McDougal, AMI, National Enquirer, none of that. But they have to talk about all this stuff so they can fill out that conspiracy for, again, a non-charged crime that's also a misdemeanor. How wild this whole scene is. And so we're back in court. We've got inner city press reporting. Judge Juan Merchan invites the jury back in. The jury is in the bench, in the panel. And Judge Merchan calls back Mr. Pecker, reminds him he's under oath. Jury comes in. Government prosecutor says, hello again, Mr. Pecker. And we're talking about Bragg's Pecker because Alvin Bragg subpoenaed him and he's Bragg's first witness. So if we're confused about who's Pecker we're talking about, it's Bragg's Pecker. We were talking about Bonnie Fuller, says the prosecutor. Do you remember Bonnie? Yeah. Okay. And are you familiar with this woman called Trish McAndrews, Mr. Pecker? And he was, once again, from the National Enquirer, AMI, allegedly the guy who was facilitating the so-called catch and kill operation. Pecker says, I recognize the name, but Trish. She was your assistant, Trish. He goes, oh, yes. I only call her Trish, so I didn't know Trish McAndrews. I'm like, what? I just know her as Trish, yeah. So not remembering the name of your assistants, that's not going to go over very well there, says the prosecutor. What about Mr. Trump? And Pecker says, well, he's over there in a blue suit. You know him? He says, yeah, he's right there, blue suit. Looks at the president. Okay, yeah, there he is. And how was your relationship with Mr. Trump? Says the prosecutor. It was pretty good. He says, I proposed to him that we do some sort of a Trump-style magazine. And he liked the idea and so on, but he asked, who will be for it? Who's going to read a Trump-style magazine? Who's going to want to read that? And you had this conversation with him after you bought the National Enquirer? Or how was your relationship with him after you bought the National Enquirer? Pecker says it was pretty good. We were friendly. Mr. Trump introduced me to people in New York and we hung out a bit. And what about The Apprentice? He says, yeah, that and The Celebrity Apprentice too. He says if someone was going to be fired, Mr. Trump would give me the information first. It was good for my magazines. I'd leak him the information about who's getting fired. He says, you guys were pretty close, right? Yeah. What would you call him when you talk to him? David Pecker says, Donald. How often would you speak? Oh, I don't know, monthly or so. Did all that change in 2015? He says, yeah, actually, I saw him more frequently when he began to run for president. We suddenly would start to speak every couple of weeks then. And did you speak with Mr. Trump's secretary called Ronna Graff? Yeah. And how about his bodyguard called Keith Schiller? Yeah, both of them. Thank you, Mr. Pecker. Government prosecutors continuing. Mr. Pecker, tell me, when and where did you meet Mr. Michael Cohen? Oh, that guy. At a bar mitzvah, I'd say around the year 2000. That was when Mr. Trump introduced me to him in 2007. Then Mr. Trump introduced me to him in 2007. He said Mr. Cohen lived in one of his condominiums. And Mr. Trump told me to tell Mr. Cohen when there were rumors about him. So Trump says, just, if you hear anything about me, just go to Cohen. Cohen will figure it out. And from 2015 to 2017, Mr. Pecker, how often would you speak with Michael Cohen? He says, well, I speak with him more. I'd say every week, sometimes daily. And do you know Hope Hicks? Yeah, I do. She was Mr. Trump's communications director. She also worked for Ivanka's beauty business. And once Mr. Trump ran for president, our magazine would then sell the best with him on the cover. Every time we put him on there, man, they just fly off the shelves. People love the guy. He was seen as the boss on his show. And we did a poll. 80% of the readership of the National Enquirer wanted him to run for president. It's crazy numbers. Matt Lauer did an interview of him too. And Michael Cohen invited me to Mr. Trump's announcement of his candidacy for president. Says, thank you for all of that, Mr. Pecker. We'd like to show you what we've marked as People's 151, Mr. Pecker. Do you recognize this document? Pecker takes a look at it. He says, yeah, this is an email from me to Michael Cohen back in 2015, June. And this is an email from me inviting me to the June 16th announcement. So maybe it's from Cohen to Pecker, an email from me to Cohen inviting me to the announcement. So maybe Cohen sent him an invite and he responded, thanks. So you were there at the announcement, were you? Yeah. And you were there when Mr. and Mr. Trump came down? He says, yeah, Mr. Trump and Melania, when they came down the staircase, I was right there. It was magical. Did you attend a meeting in the Trump Tower in mid-August after that? He says, yeah, I did. Michael Cohen told me the boss wanted to see me. That's Trump. They asked me what my magazine could do for the campaign. And so I saw we could publish positive stories about Mr. Trump and negative stories about his opponents. And I'd notify Michael Cohen if a woman's story about him was being sold. And so Mr. Trump was known as the most eligible bachelor at the time. He was dating the most beautiful women. Government says, oh, thank you for that, Mr. Pecker. Did the names of Bill and Hillary Clinton ever come up? This is 2016 era. He says, oh yeah, Hillary was running. And there was Bill Clinton's womanizing, which of course she enabled. So I said I'd cover it. And our readers loved it. Mr. Trump was pleased that I'd do it. Michael Cohen too. He says, perfect. Now, did you believe it was helping you sell magazines? He says, yeah, and I needed the help. And did you discuss this with anyone else? He says, I did. Who was that? Dylan Howard. I told him, let's keep this all quiet. Why'd you tell him to keep it quiet? He says, being a tabloid company, we had leaks. We didn't want anyone else finding out about this. He says, I want to show you some more of this. Puts it up on the screen. He says, are these a series of pro-Trump headlines, Mr. Pecker? Up on the screen, we see one is Dick Morris. Dick Morris is writing a column or something. He says, how Donald still trumps the polls, from Dick Morris. Trump's attorney says, Your Honor, we'd ask for a limiting instruction on this one. The judge says, you're right. Jurors, we're just reminding you these are not being offered for their truth. Okay, so we're not saying that you should believe that Trump still trumps the polls or that this makes a point. We're just showing you some of the things that he did. You recognize these? He says, yeah. David Pecker says, Michael Cohen would say, we would like you to run an article against, let's say, Ted Cruz. Then Michael Cohen would send over some negative information. Michael Cohen told me he was not with the campaign at all. And what did you understand to be the relation between Cohen and the campaign? Trump says, objection. Merchan says, overruled. Sit down. Pecker says, well, Cohen was physically there in Trump Tower. I mean, he was there at the campaign office. And the government says, well, thank you. I'd like to introduce these articles. Now, I show you these headlines, Mr. Pecker. This one says, bungling surgeon Ben Carson left a sponge in a patient's brain. You recognize that? Yeah. Here's another one. Ted Cruz shamed by a porn star. You recognize that one? Yeah. Did you run these in the National Enquirer? He says, oh, yeah, we did. Yeah. We would send the PDF to Michael Cohen, for pre-publication, see what he thought about it. How about this one? Did you do this one? Donald Trump blasts Ted Cruz's dad for photo with JFK assassin. Yeah. Zodiac killer history. We don't know what the true story is there. Ted Cruz has never been proven in a court of law not to be the Zodiac killer, so who knows? Did you publish this? Pecker says, oh yeah, we did that. And how about this one about Mark Rubio? It gotta be Marco Rubio. Senator Mark Rubio's cocaine connection. Sniffing away. Did you publish that? Yeah. And was Rubio gaining in the polls? He says, I don't know, I guess so. And how about Steve Bannon? What was your relationship with him? He says, I sent him a bunch of Hillary articles to his apartment somewhere on the Upper West Side. And did Steve Bannon ever pitch articles to you? Objection. Overruled. Did Steve Bannon ever ask you to run any article? Trump's attorney said, objection, Your Honor. May I be heard, please? They go up to the sidebar. Whispering ensues. They can't get over it. Judge says, jurors, we're going to have to discuss this, so step out for a minute. Enjoy your break. Jurors leave, and now we're back on the record. Trump's attorney, Emil Bove, says, Your Honor, this line of questioning is ridiculous. It's eliciting hearsay from Steve Bannon. Shout out to War Room. He's not alleged to be a co-conspirator in this case, so why are we even talking about him? There's no conspiracy charge in this indictment at all. Government says, Your Honor, we're eliciting a verbal act. We want to know what Bannon asked Pecker to do. And the government says this is going to come up again anyways. Bannon's name is all over this case. Judge says, all right, I know what I'm doing. Bring in the jury. Now, please be seated. Mr. Steinglass, prosecutor, back over to you. Government continues. Okay, Mr. Pecker, when you were CEO of AMI, Did the business records include invoices and non-disclosure agreements? Your business records? Yeah. And have you reviewed the records, including emails in this thumb drive? Yeah. And were they collected pursuant to a search warrant? Yes. And I offer these exhibits, Your Honor, 154 through 170, 179, and the A exhibits, 171 to 178. Trump's attorney, objection, Your Honor. Sidebar ensues. Judge comes out. All right, the defense's objection is noted and it's overruled. Sorry, Trump, you lose again. To the extent there is embedded hearsay inside of this line of questioning or inside these materials, we'll deal with it as it comes up. Government's asking Pecker says, have you heard of Dino Sajudin? He says, yeah, he was selling a story about Donald Trump. And I think Dino was the doorman at one of the Trump buildings. He was selling a story about Donald Trump, said he had an illegitimate daughter with a maid. And I told Michael Cohen as part of our August agreement when we had our talk, Cohen said he would verify the name, he'd call back. What happened? Well, I told Dylan we should prepare a source agreement that Dino should take a polygraph to see what he, prosecutor cuts him off, says, what you were about to say, okay, don't say that. Don't say a polygraph. Don't say that. Cut him off. What is a source agreement? Wow. Don't go into that line of question. Now, what is a source agreement? He says, well, with a tipster, we get exclusive rights. So we say like 90 days, we get the right to the story. Then you can talk about it elsewhere. And did you do one of these with Mr. Sajudin? He says, yes. And we arranged a $500 polygraph. He says, please don't talk about the polygraph results. Okay. I just said that. Crying out loud. This prosecutor's like, I don't want him to know there's a polygraph. Okay. Gosh. Says, okay. Well, now the jury knows there's a polygraph that you don't want to talk about. That's good. We bought it for $30,000. We bought the story. So maybe the polygraph came back and said, mixed results. We don't know. So they bought it. Now then Cohen told me Mr. Trump would take a DNA test. He's German-Irish. This woman's Hispanic. And so there's no connection there at all. Cohen said, it's not him. So why'd you buy it then? He says, well, if it was true, it would be our biggest seller since the death of Elvis Presley. So he's like, I don't know. This guy just collects stories because you never know. It's it's kind of a good strategy. Like you want your nice, consistent investments, the stuff that makes you the, standard safe income. And you want to play around with some house money, a little fun money. Maybe something hits, boom. 30,000 turns into the biggest story of all time. Yeah, it's like a good investment. It's like nothing. Okay. So he's playing around. So we bought it. We buy stories, $30,000 for a multi-million-dollar company. It's kind of the cost of doing business. So they say, okay, government now moves we want to show you what's been marked as People's 154. This is the Sajudin contract between this doorman and your company. And it's dated on 11/15/2015. Please read it and refresh your recollection on this one. He says, yeah, okay, $30,000 as set forth below right here. We hired an investigator and we found out that the story was 1,000% untrue, like all of the other Trump allegations. Weird. So why'd you pay it? He says, well, if another outlet got it, I'd be embarrassed about that. So I show you then People's Exhibit 164. I want to show you this email, right? He might be beating him up over here. Like you're not being truthful here. So I want to show you this email. Trump's lawyer, objection. Judge says, please approach. They go up to the judge's bench. We come back. Judge says, I'll admit it. So Trump loses. Exhibit 164 goes in. But we're going to redact some items here. Mr. Pecker, what does this look like? He says this email requests a wire transfer and his W-9. So someone's getting paid. And what did Cohen say about this in the email? He said, lock him in until after the election. He said, lock him in until after the election. And did there come a time that you did release him? He says, yeah, Sharon Churcher was another reporter. She worked for Barry Levine, and this is Dino's release. Now, this, I think, actually supports Trump. It's like he buys stories that are not truthful, right? All the time. So $130,000 for Stormy is not out of course. I think this actually hurts the government's case. We took a polygraph, we investigated it, we bought it anyways. Even though it's 1,000% untrue, we still bought it because we just wanted to lock it up. We don't need any sudden movements, okay? Like we're about to beat Hillary Clinton here. So we don't need any weird fake stories. It's $30,000. Just lock it up. It's a smart business play. Like buy the competition before it emerges. So they're saying, yeah, and we released him. It's just standard practice. So the government continues saying, okay, well, now let's talk about Karen McDougal. So we'll see if he tries to contrast this one. Says, now who is Karen McDougal then? Because we know what you did with Sajudin. Karen McDougal was a Playboy playmate who was Playmate of the Year, I think, December of some year. Not that I know. Says, a Playboy model. Who was she? Well, Pecker says, well, she was a Playboy model, okay? She was trying to sell a story about a relationship that she had with Trump for a year. So I told Michael Cohen about it during our next call. He said, that's totally untrue. And I said, okay, let's vet it. Government says, did you discuss paying this? No, Pecker says. No, we didn't discuss paying for it. I just told Cohen we'd keep him apprised. And did you come to believe that Cohen had spoken with Mr. Trump about this? He says, yeah, I think so. I was at my biggest investor in the AMI in New Jersey. I was making a presentation and I was there and Donald Trump gave me a call. He said he'd have Cohen call me. And so I sent Dylan Howard out to California and he met with the lawyer, Keith Davidson, and someone called Karen. I interviewed her for a few hours. So that's Karen McDougal and her attorney. Dylan Howard from AMI flies to California to go meet with her. Now, in that time, I spoke with Cohen. He kept on calling me. He was more anxious each time. And we don't know what happens next. The judge cuts him off. It's 2:00. We'll break. Ah! And so they are pausing and calling it a day in court. Inner City Press reporting. Judge Mercan says, Mr. Bove, your objection's noted. I'll take it under review. Prosecution says, we'll put it in a letter. And we are adjourned. So, Inner City Press bringing us day 7 of this trial, day 6 of this trial. And we, of course, see what's happening on the stand. They're trying to create a pattern showing that Donald Trump was engaged in this broader conspiracy, even though it was never charged, and that was enough of a predicate offense to allow them to charge this as a felony in this case. Now, obviously, this is all total nonsense. Here is former acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker talking about Matthew Colangelo and how this whole thing is being orchestrated and coordinated by the Biden administration.
The trial for me is very much barely started. You know, the jury selection is one thing. I don't think they can get a fair jury in Manhattan, but we're beyond that now. The opening statements, I think, framed the issues for both sides. Now we're actually going to get into the evidence, and what we're going to hear is that documents were categorized by a low-level bookkeeper at the Trump organization based on checks that the president had signed, and I think in my mind, that's where the case sort of starts to fall apart, because they have to hang all of this behavior, all of these acts on President Trump, or he had to have directed it. And then he was president of the United States. And I can't highlight enough also that the person that gave the opening statement yesterday for Alvin Bragg's Manhattan DA's office is a guy named Matthew Colangelo. And, he was at the Biden Department of Justice. He was kind of making sure that, the special counsel was directed in the right directions, both on the documents in Florida case and on the January 6th case. Then he went to the Letitia James office and made sure that the civil fraud case was buttoned up and ready to go. And now he's over at the Manhattan DA's office. He is the connective tissue. When Donald Trump talks about election interference and directed by the Biden administration. This attorney, Matthew Colangelo, is the one who connects all of this and has really been directing traffic to make sure all of these cases proceed against Donald Trump and keep him off the election.
Yeah, that sounds like
exactly what they're doing. So Matthew Whitaker talking about Colangelo and how he's been involved in this since the inception of all these cases, all because Joe Biden trying to take out his political opponent. And we're going to be here continuing to cover this, my friends. Thank you for joining us as we do. Thanks for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this, liking this video, inviting a friend or family member to come on over here, sharing something with them, saying, come check out this channel. We'd be very grateful. We also have some great links down in the description below, including our members only community over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, where we do member only streams in the morning, on Saturdays, and after parties. After the show is here, done over here, and we'd love to see you over there. Thank you for supporting us any which way. We look forward to seeing you back here on the next one. All right, my friends. And now we have got one final segment on the day, and we're going down to Florida because we got some unredacted documents, and you know how much we like unredacted documents here. Joe Biden in hot water. Biden busted orchestrating the classified documents prosecution against Donald Trump. We've got some unredacted documents to look at. One of these we've already read through here a long time ago, I think back in January of this year, when Trump was filing motions to get access to government materials in a motion to compel. But when we read it, all of these sentences were redacted. Don't you hate that? I do. But guess what? They have now been lifted off. And so we can review side by side where those redactions were, why they were there, and we can see exactly what they expose, which of course is Biden's involvement in this entire saga. Now, I want to give a hat tip over to Julie Kelly, who also did a great thread on this over on X. Be sure you're following her. She did this on the X platform and did a great job. It's got over 3 million views. And so make sure you're following her for this type of coverage. But let's take a look ourselves at what is happening in these two documents when we pull them up side by side. And I want to go through them together so that we can see what is happening. And so as a reminder, this is the one on the left that we've already covered here. It's the motion to compel discovery. We have the unredacted version on the right. And so as we fast forward, there's a background on all of this and an introduction that we've already read through here. But this is about the motion to compel discovery. So the motion to compel saying the government has a lot of information that they're not giving to us. And they need to. We can't do our job without it. And we've covered all of this, but look what we have here. When we fast forward to page 5, we're going to do the same thing on the right side and see what it looks like. As you can see, a little bit different. Isn't it interesting? Well, let's see what we've got inside. We're on page 5, and here is what the story looks like by way of background. They tell us, and let's just pop this one open so we can zoom in on it. They tell us, here's what's happening. Almost as soon as President Trump left office, NARA started to work with the White House Office of Records Management. NARA started to work with the White House. Now, was that? Let's see if that was redacted. It was not redacted. And so let's zoom this back out so we can be very clear about what's happening. Now, they say this was done on exaggerated claims, but on May 5th, less than 5 months after the end of Trump's term, NARA counsel, the lawyer for the National Archives, this was redacted here, Gary Stern sent an internal email attaching a draft letter to President Trump's PRA representatives. So the lawyer for the National Archives. Stern noted that he had several conversations with the White House ORM. And all of that was redacted. Now, they say person so-and-so and person so-and-so had raised some concerns directly with NARA's archivist, and Stern's draft, this whole thing we're here now, has been redacted. Stern's draft conceded that things were very chaotic, as they always are in the course of one-term transitions, and he acknowledged that the transfer of Trump's records is still ongoing and won't be complete for several more months. They redacted all of that. Now, NARA employee says it's not uncommon that the PRA material collection extends past the closure of any presidential administration, sometimes well after the close of any given administration. However, in early June, during ongoing good faith efforts by Trump's team to address these issues, Ferraro declared, "I am out of patience." And so all of this needed to be redacted pursuant to Jack Smith's demands. Remember, Trump has always wanted this stuff to be public. Trump, in every single case that we've had, Trump wants to be ungagged. In New York, Trump wants all of the documents to be publicized on the record. And the government has been opposing this at every step. They don't want you to see this stuff. So when Trump submits these motions to compel, he's got to redact all this stuff. Judge Cannon just lifted it up. And why would Jack want that redacted? Because it shows them that Trump was complying with the law. Trump was working with the PRA as he's entitled to do, and they even acknowledged it goes on for months after they leave. But what we'll see is they created a case here. Trump wasn't doing anything out of the ordinary, but they say, oh, sorry, January 21st, your illegal documents, okay? No, it happens for months, all the time. Jack did not want the public to see this. Now, as this goes on, you can see the redactions continue. We tried to read this months ago. Now we can. In an August 30th email, Ferraro threatened one of Trump's representatives. You can see why Jack didn't want to hear that, make that public, and that he was, quote, assuming an alleged and non-existent 24 boxes of records have been destroyed. Ferraro. And that he was, quote, obligated to report it to the Hill, to the DOJ, and to the White House. So this guy just loses it. Now, on September 1st, Stern then circulated a letter that we could consider sending to the Attorney General about missing Trump records. And then so-and-so and so-and-so, the names are still being redacted. They began drafting a DOJ referral letter during the first week of September 2021. So in other words, the Biden administration, through NARA, and through counsel, Gary Stern and others, they're already creating a criminal referral to the DOJ in September, even though they acknowledge this goes on for months. Stern's email stated that he had, quote, informally reached out to the DOJ and the DOJ lawyers about this issue. And that the White House counsel is now also aware of the issue and has asked that I keep them in the loop to the extent that we make any reference to the White House involvement. Okay, and remember, when Jack Smith, let's see, when was Jack Smith appointed is the question. And Jack Smith, the lawyer, was appointed by Merrick Garland November 18, 2022, right after Donald Trump declared he was running for the presidency. And you know why we appoint special counsels, obviously, is so that they can do an independent investigation into all of this, right? And they can create their own thesis for the case and decide independently whether or not to bring charges, right? That's why we have special counsels. Otherwise, it's Joe Biden prosecuting the president, right? And they've told us that Jack Smith is very arm's length, the way he has no knowledge about anything, and he's not really under control of Merrick Garland or Joe Biden, and that's why it's not them prosecuting their political opponents. Strange. Everybody in the Biden White House, Ferraro, NARA, Gary Stern, they're all informally reaching out to the DOJ. Boy, you can see why Jack Smith wanted to cover all this up, because it looks like the prosecution is happening before Jack Smith even got on the case. They're already talking about prosecuting him at the DOJ. Weird. So this is Trump's motion now. Now, Trump's team, right? We need a motion to compel. They had to cover all this up. Now they don't. They tell us that in late September 2021, without disclosing that NARA had already drafted a referral letter to the DOJ, so they're already beginning to prosecute, even though Jack Smith's not coming for a year later. They already contacted the DOJ. Deputy White House Counsel Jonathan Su asked one of Trump's representatives to permit so-and-so to access notes from the Trump administration related to the records handling. Su then intervened when Stern offered to provide a copy of the notes to Trump's representative. He said, before we give stuff back to Trump, a copy of the notes, could we discuss the process before anything's provided to him? Stern agreed to coordinate on this issue with the Biden administration, but informed Su that the request was atypical. Normally, we would have provided the records to him per the notification in the review process before we could provide anything to you, right? So we give it to Trump before we give it to you. Now, 2 days later, Stern assured Su that the Presidential Records Act representatives had not asked to see these records. So they're basically hiding materials from Trump. Okay, remember, these are Trump's records. They treat Trump like he is just irrelevant, but he was duly elected by the American people. He was the president of this country. He has the same rights and privileges that Bill Clinton had, that Ronald Reagan had, that Barack Obama had. So he is the sole arbiter pursuant to the Clinton sock drawer case, the sole arbiter of the presidential records. So when they're going through them, they should be notifying Trump. And then the current White House can also get involved, right? Because he's the arbiter of those records. They were his. But Stern is assuring Su that the presidential records were never even requested. So they're not asking for them. So that's why you don't need to give it to them. Okay, so they're, in other words, hiding materials in what should be a good faith basis between two governments, right? It's a functional transition. They keep saying Trump was interfering with the lawful transfer of power. We're watching it happen right now. They are withholding documents, trying to hide it from delivery so that they can then turn around and say Trump doesn't know what's going on with these materials, indict him. On October 5th, Stern sent an internal email, all this redacted, describing a strategy to, quote, time NARA's public communications with Congress in order to prejudice Trump. See why that's redacted? Yeah, you can imagine that. Timing NARA's public communications with Congress to hurt Trump. They're concocting a scheme, conspiring. Now, Stern email, he sent a draft letter to the Hill about social media records, which Stern proposed to run past the White House counsel, like once again, before notifying Trump. They're Trump's records. He gives it to Biden before he gives it to Trump. They're Trump's records. 3 days later, the Biden administration, again, in control of this, they instructed NARA reject Trump's assertion of executive privilege and disclose all those materials to the J6 committee, right? So Trump doesn't have control of those. There's no privilege, bypass Trump completely, and now they have to admit that. So there's one sentence here that was redacted. They say the transfer of 15 boxes to NARA. On December 30th, one of President Trump's representatives notified NARA that in response to NARA's request, there were boxes available for pickup. NARA caused the 15 boxes to be transported from Florida to D.C. In response to an internal NARA email claiming that some materials contained classification markings, Deborah archivist, you remember Deborah Stidel-Wall, she excitedly revealed to her bias to like-minded colleagues by responding, I volunteer to help review the remaining items, okay? And we know that she does not like Trump, man. We have that one video clip we played here many times. Because he made a joke. He's like, oh, you got a lot of books in your archives probably, huh? And she's like, yeah, racist, whatever. So, okay, now the White House now, you can see all of this was redacted. On the original filing, this is from Trump's motion to compel discovery, saying we need information about all this. Okay, we need to get information about all this. Please order them to give it to us. They couldn't even tell us what they were demanding because of the redactions. But let's take a look at this paragraph. They tell us. Now, the White House instructs the National Archives to contact prosecutors. So once again, Joe Biden coordinating with the DOJ. In an effort to cover up evidence of biased participation in the investigation by Joe Biden, Jack Smith has falsely claimed that NARA independently referred this matter to the DOJ back on February 9, 2022. It's not true at all, they say. But however, the evidence demonstrates that Sue, this was redacted, this next sentence, the evidence demonstrates that Sue, who we talked about earlier, on behalf of the Biden administration, referred NARA to the DOJ on January 21st, 2022. Right? That's a big damning sentence right there. Clear why that was redacted. Sue, acting for Joe, referred NARA to the DOJ. Joe Biden instigated and initiated the entire classified documents prosecution, all redacted. According to an FBI report, Stern and this person, also from NARA, they, quote, consulted, this is all redacted, consulted, so-called, in this report from the FBI, with Sue in late January 2021. Now, during this consult, Sue, from the FBI report, referred Stern to the Department of Justice Deputy Attorney General called Emily Loeb and Associate Deputy AG David Newman. Loeb and Newman instructed person here and Stern to refer the matter to their Office of the Inspector General. Everybody's referring this all over the place. And the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Now, Newman also provided the DOJ contacts. Oh, look who it is. Jay Bratt. Oh, there it is. He's still on the case. He's still on this case. He's like the lead prosecutor down there in Florida. Very curious. So he's been on this for a long time, right? All the way back in 2022 in January. And Jack Smith didn't come aboard until November and then just joined Jack Smith's team and just packed up his briefcase and waddled over there. So he gets the case along with Cormy Amundsen and chief of the public integrity section, and Stern had additional conversations with Bratt and Amundsen regarding the next steps. They colluded clearly. All of these people meeting together to figure out how to prosecute Trump, and Joe Biden was running it. Wild. No wonder they redacted it. So then NARA created this sham referral, the head librarian of America. On January 25th, this sentence was redacted. Acting on instructions from the White House and the DOJ, NARA sent information from the 15 boxes to the NARA Office of the Inspector General. And they say we learned a bunch from this. Then on February 9th, when on the date on which Jack Smith's office claimed that the referral was made by NARA, because Jack Smith inherited this case, and they have to explain how all this got here. They say, no, the referral was made by NARA. But here's what happened. The House Committee on Oversight requested information from NARA. Then at 3:01, per this person, not per NARA, this person, not NARA, forwarded the congressional inquiry to Bratt. So who is that person? That's still redacted. So NARA didn't go from Congress to NARA. It went from Congress to this person to Jay Bratt at the DOJ. Bonsenko then sent an internal email and so on. Now, NARA, the National Archives, they originally claimed in their email that Stern, quote, this is new, had independently, quote, engaged with the public integrity section, which is a component of DOJ prosecutors, and that he was purportedly seeking guidance from a law enforcement perspective. But in response, Keller, this is new, directed the OIG to contact Bratt, the same prosecutor who's assigned on this case. Keller wrote that Bratt had been involved in ongoing consults regarding these allegations and noted that the Counterintelligence Division of the FBI is also assessing these allegations. New paragraph also says, on February 11th, the FBI interviewed this person, and they say that this person told the FBI that he and Stern had consulted on discussing the materials that NARA recently received. And they tried to discuss this without triggering the obligations to notify the record holder. That's Trump. Okay, they want to talk about all these materials, but they don't want to tell Trump about it. They are hiding like legal documents that Trump is the owner of. They are conspiring to make sure he doesn't know about the fact that they're, doing something with them. Trump is the owner. Now, in order to avoid the obligation under the Presidential Records Act, the FBI advised the person not to disclose the content of the classified documents to the interviewing agents. Oh, well, he's like, only like sort of look at them. Like if you don't really look at them completely, you don't have to disclose. Like you're just moving them, you're not looking at them. Now, however, on February 24, 2022, this person provided the FBI with purported inventory from the 15 boxes. So someone looked through them and indexed them. Now, in a text message 4 days later, they explained that 15 boxes from Mar-a-Lago have consumed all of our discussions with the White House. Again, White House is totally involved in this. Now, the DOJ was making claims of urgency. You see, there was this little paragraph that was redacted right here. They say, on April 29th, President Trump and his representatives considered this request, and as they considered the request, Bratt asserted to Trump's lawyers, they said this. So this is redacted, Bratt told Trump's lawyers the following. Access to materials is not only necessary for purposes of our ongoing criminal investigation, but the executive branch must also conduct an assessment of the potential damage resulting from the apparent manner in which these materials were stored and transported and take any necessary remedial steps. So he's basically threatening Trump's lawyer on April 29th, like, you're in big trouble. Damage, right? That's criminal talk. You're in big trouble. And so let's fast forward and see what else was redacted that is seemingly unredacted. We're going to fast forward to page 18. And they tell us in this section that, as discussed in more detail, they say, White House Liaison Division worked very closely with Biden going all the way back to January 21 when he took office. They say by at least the fall of 2021, NARA's lawyers had, quote, informally reached out to the DOJ and to the White House counsel, right? So White House lawyers and Joe Biden's DOJ are now involved. In January 2022, NARA communicated with the White House. And we know this because one of the first investigative steps taken by the FBI appears to have been an interview of this person. Now, prior to the interview, this person and Stern, they hatched a plot to provide information to the FBI about 15 boxes without triggering the obligation to notify Trump. How can we investigate him without him being notified? This person described this plan to the FBI, and the FBI agreed. Perfect. Set him up. And they went hog wild, and of course, they did that. They were spying on his plane and many other things. Now, this section is also new. They tell us in September, NARA's general counsel, so the lawyer for the National Archives, discussed records related and concerns based on reports from the White House Office of Records Management. That's with Sue, Deputy White House Counsel. Okay, so White House lawyers now talking with NARA. Sue proposed a meeting with one of Trump's PRA representatives to work through the issues and ascertain the facts. Now, 2 weeks later, Stern again brought Sue, quote, up to speed. In January, Sue advised Stern on how to route NARA's referral to the DOJ. And they did just that. Now, they say following NARA and their consulting with the DOJ, they've been consulting with them all the way back to at least September of 2021, way before Jack Smith ever came on the scene. They say Principal Deputy Assistant Attorney General David Newman and Associate Deputy Attorney General Emily Loeb, they instructed NARA on communications with the Office of the Inspector General and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence in January. In March, 2022, guess what? Merrick Garland personally authorized the FBI to investigate Trump. Wow, look at that sentence. And they've got exhibits on that, 31 and 32. Merrick Garland personally authorized in March the FBI to start investigating Trump. Now, in May 10, 2022, there's a letter overruling Trump's objection to their boxes. Trump said, they're mine. I'm the president. I have presidential records power. But just over a week later, Deputy Assistant Attorney General George Toscas participated in a briefing relating to witness interviews in connection with the investigation. Now, on August 3rd, Toscas and Jay Bratt participated in a follow-up call from the FBI's Washington field office regarding a search warrant. According to an email regarding the call, Toscas stated that he frankly doesn't give a damn about the optics of this raid. I don't care. The group discussed below that Bratt already has built an antagonistic relationship with the first former president's attorney. So Bratt's like, I don't care, go raid him. And they did. Let's talk about the FBI Counterintelligence Division. They say also the FBI is contingent, nor is the FBI contingent on the prosecution team limited to certain field offices. On February 9th, this is unredacted, a supervisor from the DOJ's Public Integrity Section informed NARA that the Counterintelligence Division of the FBI is also assessing these allegations. Now, FBI is investigating. In April 2022, the Counterintelligence Division, not the field offices, sought DOJ assistance to coordinate with NARA, including the DOJ's coordination with White House counsel. White House lawyers, once again, involved. At least one agent from the FBI headquarters participated in the raid at Mar-a-Lago, along with agents from the FBI's Washington and Miami field offices as well. And let's talk about the Secret Service, why we need materials from them. They're part of the prosecution team because Secret Service agents worked closely with the FBI at two important points. Secret Service details previously redacted, we have them now, tells us, first, the Secret Service coordinated with the FBI in connection with the June 3rd meeting at Mar-a-Lago. Very curious, which was also attended by Bratt. Now, the Secret Service escorted government participants onto the premises. Secret Service leadership communicated with Trump's attorney to ensure proper access. And following the meeting, an FBI agent wrote in an email that the Secret Service and FBI Miami were great partners. And we've seen this. Remember, there are other reports. Trump walked into the FBI and said, hey guys, want some lemonade? Basically. Like, what can we help you with? What do you need? And second, also unredacted, the Secret Service worked with the FBI during the August 8th Mar-a-Lago raid. Specifically, the FBI informed and they coordinated with the Secret Service leadership at that time. And the Secret Service facilitated entry onto the premises. They escorted them around to various locations, and they posted Secret Service personnel in locations where the FBI team conducted the searches, presumably including Melania's sock drawer, underwear drawer. All right, we continue to fast forward to see what we are newly able to read based on the lifted redactions. And we're on page 34 now. We're talking about coordination between NARA and with NARA to abuse the grand jury process that leads to the indictment in the first place. So new stuff here. Telling us that consistent with a request by the White House counsel's office to discuss process before anything was provided to Trump, so the White House lawyers colluding against the president, they say the record also suggests that special counsel's office coordinated with NARA to use one or more pretextual grand jury subpoenas to circumvent the Presidential Record Act. How did they do that? Lots of unredactions here. We see on November 2nd, 2022, the FBI's Counterintelligence Division sent a memo to NARA's general counsel seeking, quote, access to information relating to declassification decisions, how the PRA works, signed non-disclosure agreements, and other things. Now, it's not clear how NARA responded to the request, all new, but eventually the special counsel's office issued at least one grand jury subpoena with overlapping requests. Now, during a call on January 26, Jack Smith's office, the FBI and NARA, this is after Jack Smith was appointed now, they discussed a grand jury subpoena. The FBI's report relating to the call indicates the group discussed NARA's process and compliance with the subpoena and the notification process and compliance considerations. Do we have to alert Trump? On February 13th, Bratt sent a letter to Stern, the lawyer, NARA's general counsel, that referenced a January 23rd subpoena, the January 26th call, and an agreement to narrow the request number in the January 23rd grand jury subpoena to require production of only the original documents with classification markings. Now, on May 4th, a similar cast of personnel from the office, FBI, and NARA gathered again for another meeting about a subpoena. Now, that report relating to the meeting states that General Counsel, again, Gary Stern, provided 81 unclassified documents in response to a subpoena, which referenced declassification, and upon further review, 15 documents were flagged for interest in potential production by NARA to the DOJ. So we're going to hand you the evidence. No documents were removed from NARA's building. Stern will provide copy of the 15 flagged documents by early week of May 8th. So Trump is giving documents back. They say illegal, illegal, illegal. Here you go, DOJ investigate. The report also states that the group discussed multiple legal options relating to potential additional NARA records, and they want to ensure the proper protocol to lead to the timely production of those documents. Now, the note suggests that 19 of the responsive documents related to the Durham investigation, interesting, and to Crossfire Hurricane, and that those documents were already in DOJ FBI possession. Wow. So the notes contain the following additional entries. Nunez declass has been redacted. So here are some more notes. So it sounds like these things are not, nuclear secrets that might jeopardize American national security. No. They're documents about the Durham investigation. They're documents about Crossfire Hurricane, which was an illegal attack on the Trump campaign originally brought by Hillary and the Democrats, which we're going through again times 10. And it was already in their possession. The notes also contain the following additional entries. This one, which was previously redacted, is Nunez declassification, which appears to be a reference to former Representative Devin Nunes. Here's another one, a discussion about Gary Stern and Jay Bratt on the procedures if privilege is asserted and the grand jury versus normal processes. So these are notes. Yeah, these are their internal notes that they are reviewing. And they say 15 of the 81 were flagged for use in the NARA grand jury production. Okay, so in other words, this was all redacted, but it's showing how they're creating this case. While Trump is thinking he's cooperating with them. He's like, oh yeah, we're sending documents back. Oh, perfect. They gave us some docs back. Crime. 15 getting flagged over for the grand jury. So here is some more. They say it's pretty clear from Jack Smith and from the record that their office did not need to use grand jury subpoenas to get records from NARA. But why did they do that? They say NARA had already consulted with the DOJ by September of 2021, way before Jack Smith came onto the case. By February 2022, NARA had started to voluntarily produce materials to the DOJ and the FBI on their own. Jack Smith not involved. These materials included a large volume of internal emails provided to the FBI by this person on or about February 15th, as well as an inventory related to the 15 boxes. In April and May of 2022, the prosecution and NARA rushed President Trump's PRA representatives to respond to the access request related to the 15 boxes so that NARA could give the FBI unfettered access to its contents. The FBI's memo seeking voluntary assistance from NARA is further proof that all parties understood that a compulsory process was, of course, unnecessary. Now, they say there were some document disclosures, and the notes from the meeting of a May 4th meeting suggest that Jack Smith's office instructed NARA not to provide certain of the 81 documents that NARA had determined were responsive to the purported grand jury subpoena. And that request supports Trump's position that the office's relationship with NARA is anything but at arm's length. They're telling them what to do and timing everything to make it maximally, give it maximum effect. They say, moreover, the DOJ's instructions to withhold certain documents would be even more problematic if any of those materials were favorable to Trump and had they not been produced. So for these reasons, we should require Jack Smith to disclose the 81 documents referenced in these exhibits that were already in the FBI's possession, and tell us which others you flagged for NARA's grand jury productions. So we got some more here. Now we move on, saying they're attempting to terminate Trump's security clearance retroactively. We remember that. So they say it's unclear from the discovery how all of this was being crafted. Jack Smith's office disclosed exculpatory Department of Energy memos about Trump's security clearance. The memo was signed on June 28th, weeks after the office filed the indictment, but more than a month before it was produced. So where'd this memo come from? Now, here is what was redacted, this whole paragraph. In the memo, Energy Department Assistant General Counsel disclosed that the agency's Central Personnel Clearance Index and tracking system reflected that Trump had an active Q clearance. An active Q clearance. Now, based on information provided by the Office of Environment and so on, and documents reviewed by the Office of the General Counsel, the Attorney General attorneys instructed that the relevant systems be immediately amended and modified so that Trump's Q clearance is terminated. The Energy Department concluded that those steps were appropriate as a matter of law, and boom, they retroactively terminated Trump's clearance. Now, after locating this memo interspersed with a huge volume of discovery, Trump requested additional disclosures about this determination. Jack Smith said, no, not giving you any of that. Now, to date, Jack Smith's office, the only thing they produced appears to have been limited to an FBI document that is reporting that, here's an interesting thing, the Scattered Castles check run on 6/14/2023 for former President Donald J. Trump was negative. Now, according to the intelligence community, Scattered Castles is the program name to check security clearances to determine if someone has it. So they revoked Trump's security clearances because he was being charged. And they thought, oh, well, we look like idiots right now since we're charging him on this. Now, here's some more material that was unredacted. They say the Secret Service and the White House Communications Agency made arrangements at Mar-a-Lago and Bedminster and Trump Tower and anywhere else for Trump to review and discuss classified materials. Now, a non-commissioned officer who previously worked at the White House counsel's communications agency explained that the semi-permanent installation of communications infrastructure, like secure internet and telephone, remains in place throughout a president's term. Now, we often call these temporary secure spaces or tents, and we had those at Mar-a-Lago. So that was, not that interesting of a redaction. They just were telling that security stuff. So we fast forward, and we've read through and covered this entire motion to compel in a previous video, which is why we're fast forwarding through a lot of this just to see what is new. But in the unredacted document, you see a couple bullet points have been unredacted. They say, we need information from NARA. NARA is part of the prosecution team, and we need material that relates to these items, including efforts to time releases of documents about Trump's objectives, efforts to avoid triggering, a notice that Trump has to be made aware of what they're doing against him, and instructions or advice from Biden prosecutors to refrain from providing information to Trump to avoid him seeing what they're doing. Now, the record supports the request that we get information about prosecutorial bias. They say in light of Trump's anticipated defenses, Jack Smith should be required to produce documents that indicate his bias. Here's what we want. An August 4th email from an FBI email memorializing the statement by General George Toscas that, quote, he frankly doesn't give a damn about the optics. Suck it up, America, of the unprecedented raid at Mar-a-Lago. He doesn't give a damn. Trump's a criminal. I don't care. What does that mean? Give us materials on that. We also want to know what Bragg meant when he said we'd built an antagonistic relationship with Trump's lawyers, particularly given the fact that he was already anticipating suing him or filing criminal charges against him in these cases. Now, as this court is aware, they say, we still have a little redaction here on this right side. You see that? They say, as the court is aware, Judge Cannon, the classified documents case against Trump has involved a number of attention-grabbing developments, many involving defense lawyers. Now, as these were addressed in our prior request from August 14th and sealed in response to the court's order requesting more information about the redacted still. Wow, this must be very sensitive. The court wants more information about something, redacted and still redacted. They say, as if the events described in these filings were not enough, through discovery, the defense team has learned that the office interested and their interest in Mr. Woodward's representation of Mr. Nada involved both the subpoena of information concerning Mr. Woodward and questioning Woodward's representations. They say, as of early January, Mr. Woodward is described by the office as a witness in the investigation. So they're looking into a lawyer. Specifically on January 30th, the FBI records reflect a request by the office to review and summarize the toll records of contacts between Woodward and this person on the one hand and person so-and-so on the other hand. And we still have redactions on this, so this is must be some juicy business over here. Now they say, moving on here, this person was counsel to Save America at the time. So-and-so's phone records were obtained. Nor is it clear that office understood the scope of Woodward's representation with respect to Save America. And in a voluntary interview with this person in February 23, after review and summary of the contacts, so-and-so is recounting how lawyers were chosen to represent witnesses in this case. One telling a colloquy as follows. Special counsel's office. Yeah, I'm curious as to how some other lawyers were located as well. Okay, so I'm doing this from memory. So blank, blank, and Woodward. Does someone recommend Woodward? So interested is the office in Woodward's representation that they interrupt so-and-so as soon as his name is mentioned. Why are they so curious in Stanley Woodward, who's representing Walt Nada? Then in a subsequent interview, this person is asked about the retention of Mr. De Oliveira's counsel, John Irving. And so the office keeps observing with respect to Irving's retention. They say, unlike Stanley Woodward, it wasn't like you were involved in picking a lawyer, but turned it over to so-and-so. And then later the office counsel surmises that as it relates to the selection of counsel saying, but I'm blank, I'm paying for lawyers here, there, and everywhere. Yeah, I know Carlos is the maintenance guy at Mar-a-Lago, but I want to pay for a guy's lawyer if he's going to, sink the ship. Like if he's going to be that guy who undoes the former president of the United States, I'd like to know before I'm the one who cuts his lawyer's check. We don't know who these people are, right? All the names are redacted. So, although the office may argue that neither the assistant AG nor the deputy AG or their approval was required for this thing to happen because it was not seeking information protected by the attorney-client privilege, their request that an FBI agent review the phone records for their purpose and the subsequent questioning of this person belie any suggestion. It's therefore likely that the office is in possession of additional communications about the lawyer, Mr. Woodward, including communications about his interactions with Barat, and we need that material. We also want, this is from the unredacted now, or a lot more unredacted You can see this entire paragraph is still redacted. Nothing changed here. And this is about production and correspondence of communications about Mar-a-Lago. We have more. They say, moreover, interesting. Here's something. Now, it follows that the office will attempt to argue that boxes of classified documents were moved in and around Trump's residence for the purpose of concealing the same from the FBI. But the locked door the FBI inexplicably failed to search is critical to any such argument. So the FBI did a bad search job as well, figures. Say, moreover, we know from communications produced from discovery, this is also unredacted, that FBI agents were communicating throughout the search of Mar-a-Lago. What were they saying? In an email sent to members of the FBI conducting the search, Agent so-and-so writes at 2:07:37 p.m. He texts someone in their little, links chat. We are wrapping up the office, about to move to the residence. Let your teams know. 4:33:26, another FBI agent says, residence is complete. After the conclusion of the search, FBI agent so-and-so writes at 10:33 p.m. at night that two attorneys with the DOJ were present for the search. Who were those people? Both of whom would later join the office of the special counsel? Oh, that's curious. So it's inexplicable that members of the FBI, let alone Jack Smith's office, would have no communications concerning the decision to not to search an area of the president's residence. Why didn't they search one area? This is still redacted. We don't know what that is. And such communications have been infamously not been disclosed in high-profile cases. Accordingly, Jack Smith should be compelled to give us those materials. Now, let's see if this block is unredacted. Yes, it is. It says at the outset, special counsel produced 80 terabytes of CCTV data. Here's what the materials look like. They just dropped it in a big folder like this. Each of these folders contains tons of materials. Look at all these files, man. Here's a screenshot of the extraction folder. And we got to use this ridiculous video player. It doesn't work. And so the FBI, this happens all the time. The FBI and law enforcement all over the place, they encode stuff in their proprietary systems. You got to use their stupid viewers to get access to anything, and then it doesn't work. All right, so they probably redacted this so you don't, dive in and see what some of the technical aspects look like. But here they say, to that end, internal documentation of Jack's receipt and processing of the CCTV footage confirm that counsel was not provided with video that they can readily access. For example, in a technical report attached to FBI 1036 dated September 8th, the FBI noted that confirmation was received from Multimedia Exploitation Unit that the files for all uploaded cameras were received for transcoding and processing into a viewable format for review. Okay, so you can't read it. So even FBI is admitting you can't read it. And so lots there. In this filing, my friends, 68 pages, a lot more unredacted. This has been something that we've been trying to peer into for quite some time. We know that the Biden administration was creating this case long before Jack Smith came aboard. They basically handed it all over to them, and then they declared it's independent, and now it's being brought without bias. But as we saw here, we have many people, White House counsel, NARA counsel, and other entities that are under the purview of the executive branch, all emailing, all conniving, conspiring to prosecute Trump. And Jack Smith has been wanting to keep this all redacted for all of eternity. Judge Cannon, of course, exposed it, and now we can see the truth for what it is. Jack Smith has been doing the bidding of the Biden administration. It is a political hit, and all aspects of this, at every juncture of this document recovery process, Trump's team was complying, and they were setting him up the entire time. They were trying to hide materials and notifications from him so that he couldn't even be apprised, right? If they are complaining about, good faith interactions and obstruction, and why didn't Trump just return him? It's because they were hiding materials from him to set him up from the very beginning. And now it is being exposed because, thankfully, Judge Cannon has decided to unveil all of that for us. And we're going to be here continuing to cover this, my friends. So thank you for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this. When the additional documents drop, more redactions are lifted, I think we're going to see that there is significant evidence that there is selective and vindictive prosecution happening here. And as many intelligent people like Julie Kelly, linked down in our description, who have been attending these proceedings in person, have been saying there might be a basis for a dismissal of this entire case because it's not justice. It is two tiers. And Judge Cannon is not Judge Chutkan. She's not Judge Mercan or Engoron. And so we'll see what happens here. We're going to continue to cover this and all of the rest of the Trump litigation, all the trials we're covering, and all of the latest updates happening in all the cases will be here. So thank you for subscribing and joining us as we carry on, and for liking this video and inviting a friend or family member to come on over here and join us. Of course, we'd love to have them come see what's actually happening in these cases and behind the scenes. We also have some great links in the description below. Our members only community is amazing. We have the best community on the interwebs. We do live streams in the morning, streams on Saturday, and after parties after our live streams here. We'd love to have you. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Come meet the best community on the interwebs. We'll see you there and back here on the next one. All right, my friends. Well, that is it for us on the day. We covered some good ground. We've got Biden busted orchestrating unredacted court records, in unredacted court records showing his collusion with his own DOJ to take out Trump. Bragg's case theory is quite embarrassing. He's trying to use another misdemeanor to turn a misdemeanor offense into a felony so that he can actually bring a case. Pathetic. And Trump is now facing a $10,000 fine, not a $100,000 fine. As you can tell, numbers are not my jam. I can't even see them straight, apparently. But we covered that. And of course, I think the point remains they're trying to gag this guy and penalize him. And so we now need to hear from you and see what you have to say about all of this. Of course, we're going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com as soon as we're done here to hang out with our membos and debrief all of the day's activities on the day. And we'd love to see you come and join us. But who is supporting us on this beautiful day? It is a tremendous Tuesday, my friends, and we're grateful to have you here. Look who is here from 1917 Beamer in the house. What's up? Says, what can President Trump do with the redacted documents? Well, I think he's showing us the collusion that's happening between the Biden administration and Jack Smith and the Democrats in prosecuting Trump. And I think he's already doing what he should be doing, which is making the case that this is selective and vindictive prosecution. I think that's happening. Hey, what's up? AHNC Hat rating this stream. I don't even know how that works, but that is really cool. I'm glad. Rate our stream away. Is this from Twitch? We're also on Twitch. We're also live on Twitch over there as well. We just started over there. I don't even know how it works, but we're going to figure it out. What's up? Jennifer is bringing in 5 new membos. Thank you, Jennifer. Ben Dover is here. We got Rage Star, OFUX is here. Nanner Nose and Ohio Light, all gifted membos, courtesy of Jennifer. Bringing in new membos. What's going on? We got Essential Bites is in the house. Says, please give the Democrats and corrupt people non-body part names like Letitia, Fanny, Pecker, LOL. I just can't. I know, it's basically unbelievable. It's like we're living in a joke. And it's just wild, and we're talking about a criminal case involving a porn star, a perjurer, and the first witness's name is Pecker. It's like, oh gosh, you can't even make it up. Good to see you, Essential Bites. Hey, Crash is here. Says, Rob, I dropped a post in the comments. It's too large for the chat, but here's a big fat tip from Crash to Contrary. Good to see you, Crash. And here is the comment, man. Here's a good comment. Here's one from Crash. And thank you to Donut for clipping this for us. Telling us, this is John McGarvey, clipping Crash for us. He says, Rob, Here's too many characters for a post, but I'd like to read this excerpt from John Adams, a letter to the officers of the Massachusetts militia, drafted and dated October 11th, 1798. From John Adams. Since the people of America have become capable of the language of justice and moderation while practicing iniquity and extravagance and displaying the charming pictures of candor, frankness, and sincerity while rioting in the rapine and insolence, this country has become the most miserable habitation in the world. We have no government armed with the power capable of contending with human passions, unbridled by morality and religion. Greed, ambition, revenge have broken the strongest cords of our Constitution as a whale goes through a net. Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. Greed, ambition, revenge. Says, I modified John Adams' words only to the extent that which was conditional in 1798 is now our reality in 2024. Yeah, there's trying times ahead. I do believe that. And I think it would be a disservice to deny that is currently something that's happening right now. But I don't think it's a unique moment in history. You know, mankind has always yearned for freedom, has always had to fight tyrants. There's always people who will happily take your life from you because they think it empowers them in their lives. And, you know, my point being is that John Adams and many people have thought that and believed that their current society was breaking around them, but freedom seemingly perseveres. I think that you'll find it, maybe in a different form. You know, we might have not have free speech at the nation state level, but I think the yearning for freedom will continue. And you see, John Adams was fighting for it back then. We're doing the same thing here. Good to see you, Crash. Thanks for the nice comment. We got, hey, it's the Munkets bringing in new membos, a bunch coming in, 20. Oh my goodness. Hey, it's the Munkets with 20 new membos. Look at this one. Drea D's coming in. Heavy G is here. Mindy A, Tom F, Joe L, Shell B, Donna F, Cindy W, Doug B, Rye B, Raymond F, Vaughn M, Margaret S, Saintly Beginnings, Tyrannius Cygnus is here. Ghosty Ghost is here. What's up? CMW, John D, Baby Cakes, and Big Russ in the house. 20 new membos. Courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets. Hey, it's the Munkets. Hey, what's up, Curtis Johnson? Reminding us to hit that like button. Thank you for that reminder. Always a good one. And Essential Bite says, oh no, I have to go through the first trimester again. Oh, great. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Back over, starting over again. Another new little baby's coming in. And I don't know anything about having a child, so I don't know what that means ultimately, but good luck, Essential Bites. Thanks for going through it again here for us on our behalf. New babies, we love them. John McGarvey, 21 months as a membo. Oh my goodness, John. We've seen some serious business out there, haven't we? These are the times that test men's souls. Yeah, I think that's true. I think that there's going to be difficult times. You know, we've had it quite nicely in this country for a long time, and a lot of people are going to have a rude awakening. I'm watching these college students out there like, we're under attack. I'm like, oh, good Lord. Wait until the markets blow out. You're going to have a difficult time. Hey, this old guy says, isn't there a possibility that Trump can petition the Supreme Court that his rights are being denied by the use of federal funds, which is illegal under the 1964 Equal Rights Act? I have no doubt that there's many different bases that Trump could file a petition to SCOTUS on. Many arguments he can make. The question is, you know, is it going to do anything? Are they going to step in and stop this trial? Are they going to wait for this to materialize, work its way up through the appeals court system? Is the presidential immunity issue going to put all this to bed at some point? Maybe on Thursday we get oral arguments and they give us a hint on that. So I'm not sure that SCOTUS is going to intervene. I don't think that they would. I think they're just going to let this process play through. I don't think it's reliable to rely on the Supreme Court to save this country or this situation. I wouldn't put all my eggs in that basket at all. What's up, Stephen M? Good to see you, Stephen. Says Letitia James and Bragg conspired to prevent the election of Trump in 2024. That's right. They're saying Trump has a conspiracy to impact an election as they're literally in a trial prosecuting Biden's political opponent that the judge's daughter works for. How dare he interfere with an election by paying off Stormy Daniels? Democrats paying the judge's daughter $93 million. Like, wow. Okay, I guess that's our new country. Hey, Jesus Freak is here. Says section 17152 means by unlawful means, and the hush payment is legal. I think and they're saying that it's illegal because he made it with the intent to impact the election. So it's like it's dividing by itself, right? It's circular. It's illogical, but it's New York and they don't care. Neurodivergent is here. So what about suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop story, calling it Russian disinformation? Would that be a crime by their standard? No, because it was against Trump and it was just an honest mistake by the CIA. Cowboy Rob says, okay, so if they pass this law revoking Trump's Secret Service, what happens to them or to that if he becomes president? They're not thinking that far ahead. Well, the trigger event for the removal of Secret Service protection would be the conviction of a crime that results in, I think, in 1 year or more. We read the bill here. So if I think that maybe requires incarceration. If it requires incarceration, the way the bill passes itself off is it's just a transfer. It's like the Secret Service goes away and now the prison guard gets you. So it's like passing the baton in a marathon or something. And they would say, well, he'd serve his time and then he'd come back and get Secret Service protection. Tony Hay Munkets, 5 more membos. Tony, you're amazing. Bringing in Wendy C, RKA, RS is coming in, Ian Brown and Blankman in the house, courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets. We love you, Tony. Hey, Big Poppy is here. What's up, Big Poppy? Membo for 5 months, over halfway to a baby. That's right, baby. Yahoo! Trump 2024. Good to see you, Big Poppy. And we're going to have a little Poppy soon. Niels is here, says movie night suggestion is 12 Angry Men. I've not even heard of that one. We got a lot of movie nights we got to go through now. I think Civil War was one of them, which means we should probably start doing movie nights, right? Right, John McGarvey? Hey, Fleed Lord Atvar says, good. Is this Robert Barnes here? What's up, Robert Barnes? Good. What's up? Thank you for that, Fleet. We got, hey, Jeffrey Adams is here. Says, Rob, why didn't Trump defense team put Matthew Colangelo on the witness list? That's a good question. I'm pretty sure they filed some selective vindictive stuff in this case. And I'm sure the judge roundly rejected them. But I'm a prosecutor. You know, the legal answer is it's work product. And he's a prosecutor doing his job. It's all protected. He's not a witness to this case. They need to, some showing of selective vindictive prosecution. And that's a pretty big nut to crack in order to reach that threshold so that you can, what would you show? You'd have to get his emails. You'd have to get his text messages. And you'd have to show that. He's in New York. He's protected. So it's not coming out. What's up? Hey, Tony Hay Munkets. 5 more membos. Oh my goodness. Bruce Little's here. Paul P. Gundam E is here. Mr. Otter Pockets. Man, those are so good. I used to eat like 1 million of those. Summer in July in Arizona. Mom would come home with like a big thing of the Otter Pockets. The Otter Pops. Otter Pops is what I'm thinking of. Not Mr. Otter Pockets or Pockets in an Otter. I'm thinking of Otter Pops. So forget my whole conversation. All right. Gypsy Muse. What's up, Gypsy Muse? Good to see you. Welcome aboard. Tony Hay Munkets, 5 new membos. Thank you. Jack Mack says, if Jack Smith hides that kind of exculpatory information deliberately, wouldn't that be an ethics violation? Sure. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, if that's true, couldn't he be disbarred for that potentially? So, yeah, there's a whole thesis, Jack Mack, that Jack Smith is, illegitimate. Like he's not even lawfully appointed. And Trump's making that argument in a number of different courts right now. So I think that this is it for Jack Smith. This is his big go. So who's going to disbar him? What court is going to come down and sanction him? He's operating, unless Judge Cannon does it. I think this type of misconduct is enabled. It's endorsed by the institutions. Same thing with Tisch. They've been given full permission to go after Trump. Even Fani Willis can lie to a judge right to his face and in writing. And still, fair game, free, no problem. She can do whatever she wants. It's institutional permission. It's like James Bond with a license to kill. They can do whatever they want. Knox is here, defense attorney in Texas, says, happy Tuesday, all. Remember, this was all super planned. Remember the office of the president-elect that they created out of thin air to bypass Donald Trump while he was still in office? Reprehensible. Yeah, and they started to, transition before he was even gone. Nancy Pelosi was saying we should 25th Amendment him. Mark Milley was calling the Chinese. Knox says, however, has everyone noticed that foreign leaders, Duda from Poland, Viktor Orban from Hungary, David Cameron from UK, have all come to speak with Trump? Even MedPage Daily had an article discussing what Trump's health policy will look like. MedPage is a trade publication. I found that very interesting. Yeah, Trump is kind of doing the Trump Tower diplomacy, Trump Tower campaign thing. And tomorrow is Wednesday, right? So we're not going to have trial tomorrow. Almost forgot about that. So tomorrow, we'll see if Trump does more Trump Tower diplomacy. We'll see if some other world leader comes to visit him. Interesting. Hey, Phobia1 says person 53 equals Bosenko. It wasn't redacted on the original document. Interesting. That is interesting. Okay, did the numbers correspond to... I think I may have closed those out. Yeah, good to see you, Phobia1. Thank you for that. Hey, B-Man says, is Jay Bratt on the DC case too? No, he's basically on Florida. The other one was Highlighter Girl, Molly, and who else is on? We haven't been talking about the J6 case for a while, but we're going to have that one on Thursday. We're covering the SCOTUS oral arguments live here, so be sure that you're subscribed, my friends. We got this one from Thomas Wright. Says, Kash Patel said it was all for Crossfire Hurricane that Trump declassified when they raided him. Hope every name behind this gets charges against them. Yeah, basically, Trump took the documents. They're his. They exposed the government and their efforts to take Trump out using Crossfire Hurricane. And so the FBI just came back and got the evidence that implicates them. Very corrupt. This old guy says, Biden's conspiracy to discredit and indict Trump in the Florida documents case should result in sanctions against every single Biden administration who participated in this fiasco. Yeah, or criminal charges, right? If they're going to charge Trump with a RICO conspiracy, they can get hit with the same consequences. Hey, Jennifer says, many thanks for explaining this all to us, Rob. You're watching the Watchers fam. Appreciate you. Well, I appreciate you back, Jennifer. Thanks for saying that. And all the work that you do, too. Thank you, Jennifer. Well, it doesn't feel like work at all. It feels like a fun journey and a little bit of a maddening extravaganza. But, of course, it's something we're all going through, and we couldn't do it without you. So thank you, Jennifer. Really grateful for that. We got Freedom Rain says, is this impeachable against Beijing Obaidan? Well, if the Republicans have control of the House, maybe they could do that, but I don't think that they do. I think that pretty much uniparty control for some weird reason. Roy MC says, it would be interesting to know who 53 is, as it seems like someone high up. It looks like 49 is a private individual getting involved with financing, buying, possibly fake testimony. Yeah, I wasn't paying much attention to the numbers as we were flying through that, but I'm sure someone, even one of those numbers was someone who used to work for that organization but no longer did. Like, I'm sure people are reverse engineering that. Good to see you, Roy. We got Fred Pedamonte says, Bratt threatened Woodward with a judgeship, correct? That's right. Exactly, Fred. You do remember that. Yeah, Bratt, they were at a meeting and he was like, well, why are you representing these guys? I mean, I thought you like applied to be a judge here in DC. He's like, why are you working for these guys if you want to be a judge? He's like, what does that mean? What does that mean, huh? Husky Mom says, Rob, regarding Twitch raids, when another streamer is ending their stream, they can choose another live stream to join with their watchers, and those viewers have the option to stay and watch your stream. That's pretty cool. I don't know much about Twitch, but it looks interesting. It looks pretty fun. So we're trying to learn more. We want to make sure we're reaching as many people as possible in this election season. So trying to figure it out. What's up, Chris? Membo for 8 months. Oh my gosh, Chris, you're about to pop, man. Says, hi, buddy. 8 months, almost for full term and loving it. Yeah, pregnancy suits some people better than others. You look fabulous, Chris. Thanks for being a member for 8 months. Can't wait to meet the little guy. Chris, what's up, Chris? Another dono. Thank you, Chris. A member for 8 months and a dono. You're awesome. Thank you, Chris. And I can't wait to see this little one coming out. Hey, Mr. Illusions sending in a dono reminds me of Edward Nygma from the Batman movie. Bad Poet says, let's compare. Trump may have done things with Stormy, had documents protected by the Secret Service. Biden may have done things with his daughter, and kept some documents in an office with the CCP China, and his son is Hunter Biden. It's bad. Salty says, Rob, tell John McGarvey, okay, that 21 months is the gestation time for an elephant. One for the long timers. Hey, that's good to know. All right, so maybe we should celebrate new elephants, elephant babies. John McGarvey, we have an elephant baby. Oh, my goodness. Salty Sarge, good to see you. Thanks for the updates. I didn't know that. It's a long time. Yeah, it's a long time. But they do come out like the size of a small car, you know, these little baby elephants. They're like running around just kind of like little kids. It's funny. Knox says, my Tucson kids loved Otter Pops. Oh, we ate those things like crack. Man, we were guzzling those down like Hunter Biden. You give us a stream. Like my mom would come back with a big box of Otter Pops. And then like 3 boys plus our friends, they're gone. 2 seconds, gone. The whole thing, gone. You know, we had like lines of them. We're like cutting them off with scissors, the whole line. And then just mashing them into our mouths, just shoving them in there like shotgunning Otter Pops. It was a problem. What's up, Jack Mack? 5 new membos coming in courtesy of Jack. Love you, Jack. Thank you. Bringing in Lawful Axe. Ouija's here. Rob's coming in. Solid Snake. Swaycio is here. It's very grateful to have all of you. Hey, what's up? John Allen's here. Hey, it's John Allen. Good to see you, John. Says, hey, Rob, and all you Watching the Watchers followers. Just wishing everyone a great week. Been working and lurking a lot. It's a busy time out there, John. As always, thank you for the continued wonderful streams. And lastly, praying for Trump to defeat these crazy Democrats. Thank you, John. Good to see you, John. John, very nice dono. Thanks for being here, my man. Good to see you again. And we hope you're doing well. We got Beth Coddington, Farmer's Daughter's in the house. Beth, it's good to see you. It has been a while. Yes, I got to drop by more. That's true, Beth, you do. Says, Sweetums, I took a screenshot of the Adams quote. I'm going to post it on my Facebook page. When is this movie night? Oh, gosh, I know. Ask John McGarvey. He knows all about it. I got to drop by more. Love you as always. Good to see you, Beth. Movie night's kind of like this ongoing meme because I'm not really sure how to do it. To be honest, I don't really know how to do a movie night. Like, do we all watch it and then do the thing, which we've done? We did that with Contact and some other movie. Or do we all watch it together on an Amazon thing or something? I don't know how it works, but it sounds fun. We'll figure it out at some point, no doubt. Hey, what's up? Phobia1 says top page 11 Basenko was not redacted on the original doc. Interesting. So they redacted it on the second one. And I remember that name in that filing for sure. It was definitely in there. And hey, Roy MC says it was 49 who said that he was paying for the doorman's testimony. It looks like a wealthy private individual coordinating with Smith to buy testimony. From Sajuden. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure somebody is connecting all the dots like with the red, yarn on the pocket on the board. What's up? Crash says 12 Angry Men is a 1957 movie with Henry Fonda about jury deliberating. Well, it's probably why I don't know much about it. Yeah, 1957's a little bit before my movie time, but I'm sure it was great. And I think I've heard the name Henry Fonda. I'm pretty sure I've heard that one. What's up? Thank you, Crash, for clarifying and educating us on that one. We're going to say hello to our friends on X briefly before we go on over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party, where we love to see you. Who's joining us on X here today? Hey, what's up? Here's this one from Danny McWilliams. Says, great show. Don't know what else to say. All right, that's good enough. I'll take it. Here's one from Glocky. What it's going to be like when the state asks Cohen questions. Oh, it's Alina Abba in the house. It's Alina Abba. So I'm not going to play that for copyright reasons, but you can see Alina Abba. And, before we wrap this up, there was an interesting post from Alina Abba today, and we'll just wrap it up here with just a little Alina video, just so we all know, what's going on out there. And it's Passover. I know some people are celebrating that. Obviously, Alina has a message. Of course, Alina has gotten some grief. She was cutting some celery yesterday. And apparently some people had some things to say about her cutting some celery. So she made a new video for us where she is now going to be showing us how to deal with avocado.
Hey guys, I've never done a video like this, so I thought I would try because Ron Filipowski is getting like 1 million views for me chopping celery. This is me eating avocado. Happy Passover, everybody. Hey, Ron, you little trollski. Well, I'm not good at this either. Oops. Get a life!
All right. So she posted that one, and I thought it was a good video for, you know, if you're curious about how to cut some avocados over there. All right. The heck are we talking about? Okay, yes. So our friends on X. Let's say hello to our friends on X, and then we'll wrap it up on the day and see what's going on. Hey, Fred Pedamonte says, why is Trump going along with this obvious joke? Say whatever you want. Go to your son's graduation. Go to SCOTUS. They're not going to put him in jail. We'll see. Hey, there's some more from Glocky over there. CF Rob is dropping some memes. What's up, Brian Cartwright? Says, what does unlawful means? Yeah. Can you just pay for that stuff? Hey, crypto nerds in Texas. Otter Pops, man. Crack cocaine in a box right there for kids. That's crack for kids right there. It's good, too. But be careful. Watch your kids. JC says, Fab. Salty Sarge says, today's was a good day. And we had some other great comments. What's up? Fluid R's, Island Boy, Charles Randy. This is not a pregnancy test, but it's a TDS test. Interesting. A TDS sensor. It's a great question. A TDS sensor. It's good for liberals. But where do you insert them? Where do these go? Where do you put them in? I don't know. I don't want to know. All right. So that's what's going on over on X, my friends. And of course, thank you for supporting us today over on X, over on YouTube, wherever it is you're tuning in from. We're grateful for it. We are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party. We're going to hang out there for 8 minutes and see what's cooking, debrief a little bit. Whatever we miss, we'll make up in the morning. But we'd love to see you come join us, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Before we head over there, I want to thank the mods and the meme smiths who mod everything down for us and keep things nice and orderly. Our friends, Donut Mind Me, Economy Pilot, Dog Digger, Jan Eck, Zach Nichols, Ronnie Cole, Playing Hooky, Just Cause, and of course, K-Bean, modding the fort down for us. We've got our meme smiths, Glocky McGlock, who dropped a bunch of good ones over on X, Geegum Geegum, Nathan N810, and Sleepy Dog Lee, my friends. That is it for us on the day. It's a beautiful Tuesday. We are going to be back tomorrow. Not going to have trial tomorrow, but we're going to have a lot of other business to attend to. And we hope to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.